Welcome my friends, this is Maniacal Incorporated, continuing on with my historically accurate Munster playthrough. In the Tip Volume 2 mod, we have formed the Kingdom of Ireland. And we do have a couple of blotches around the place. A war with England to try and conquer those regions. Especially, we'll say, well, Valley is part of, we'd have to go to 3 separate wars to try and conquer all of the areas that England owns. And of course, England is quite a strong power, never mind the allies that it can call in. But somebody who isn't strong anymore, or isn't as strong as they once were, is Connacht. And what we're going to do shortly is we are going to go to war with Connacht. There are a few people that we have hooks on, so this is one thing that we're going to start doing, is blackmailing people to get... Can I send out more than one at a time? I can't. To try to get hooks on them that we can use to make more money. We have our spy master, Murchad, who's actually in bad health. We have him in our court at the moment trying to figure out who murdered our wife. I am thinking, however, of sending them back to England, because I have a suspicion that it was probably somebody there who ordered that murder. So we're going to try and figure out who that is. We're getting a bit of a piety penalty, I believe, because we've too few spouses. That is a hefty penalty. We don't actually really have all that many good options. I might try and marry somebody for diplomacy, or for... I'm in the wrong place. Diplomacy or martial prowess. Why not both? Here is somebody who has fairly high diplomacy and fairly high martial, relatively speaking. They're insular. Why not? Not now. Not... I know, you've converted to insularism. Not now. There's more important news in the background. Blessed be God. Yeah. Espionage. Murder. While performing his duties as by spymaster, Earl Murchad has uncovered a secret held by my wife. She plotted and schemed to murder my wife. Dear Drew, how could you? How could you? You absolute devil. I should not let rabid dogs run wild. We have some marriage proposals to knights that we have in the court. We might have to do something about those knights. We're fairly low on knights at the moment. In prison, 100% chance of success. It's an act of tyranny. Could we do this instead? Expose a secret. So we would expose their murder secret, which I imagine is going to give us... We've turned them into a criminal. We will imprison. So one wife is going into the dungeons, another wife is arriving in the court. Justice, as per my orders, High Queen Deirdre, is now to be confined to her home. I've posted some of my guards to ensure she is compliant with the house arrest. Guards, you take the evening off. You take the evening off. Oh, the sweet kiss of the whip. It might look innocent, but it can separate flesh and bones just as well as any knife. A truth my wife is soon to experience. Will she be sleeping on her stomach for a while? I think it's highly likely that she's going to be executed. It's at times like this that I wish dread could go to a number higher than 100. We've been at 100 dread for a considerable period of time. So we married a woman there not that long ago to try and get that too few spouses penalty gone, and basically we're back where we started. We don't have a ton of great options if we're trying to marry for traits. We could try to pick up the quick trait. So here is Moraid. Unfortunately, they are lazy, zealous and trusting, very high diplomacy, and they are insular. And that's a benefit because our primary wife hates us. Minus 40 because we are not in a monogamous relationship. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to promote this individual to be our primary spouse, because then we will actually be able to have them on the council. It was maybe a bad idea, but I have indeed sacked Lorne as our marshal and installed Thorfinn. At the moment, I don't think we're going to put them training commanders. If we take a look at our knights, at the top it's not too bad, but then we go further down the list and it's not great. Money is still a bit tight. We will send out the Herald. And now that we have the Kingdom of Ireland completed, now we're in a position to start looking at the men-at-arms. I'm not too sure when we inherited a separate section of bowmen. So I'm going to destroy that regiment and just shove these up by 1. So there's a cost there of 55. And if we look at creating a new regiment, we are beginning to see some fortifications on the island of Ireland which are getting difficult to hit. Generally, I don't focus on mangonels until we start focusing off the island of Ireland. Possibly. With Scotland becoming involved in wars, we might need to start doing that. I think what we might do, for the hell of it, is add some armoured footmen. The elite units of the new kingdom. Moraid has accepted marriage. And we married her for that trait, so what I think we will do is, if we romance her, we have the ability to gain prestige. It's a 0% chance of success, so we're going to go for the Owl Seduction scheme. We're told of some new acquisitions, but we're also told that another Queen of England has drank herself to death. I think this is the second, if I am right. Title history. So, drank herself to death, died from his wounds, drank herself to death. The Godwin dynasty still hanging on. They've only lost about 3,000 troops, however, they have also lost all of their alliances. That's very interesting. During the daily management of my realm, I have learned of several different opportunities I can pursue. Each opportunity has great potential, but realistically, I can only pursue one of them. So we've heard rumours of a lost tome. We could get a weak hook on a duke, or we could fill our treasury. A lost tome would be fantastic. But 150 gold. Who can say no to that? The death of the English monarch has led to a rather bizarre scenario. I'm not too sure how this happened, but Ivali has become independent. If we look at the title history, it was simply inherited, but it was inherited out of the Kingdom of England. I believe it's... So would that be... Is it possible that... No, Whiston is still there. So I know that there's... It's completely surrounded by land. So it's kind of separated. I forget what the actual setting is. So maybe that's what happened here, but Cainach will indeed accept vassalization and will accept at the normal feudal obligations. Our eldest son, the future King of Ireland, Duke of Cornwall. We are going to marry him into House Oldenburg and bring in, how could we turn down a man who was willing to bring 1916 troops into any future wars that Ireland might engage in? Here is his eldest daughter. So we're just barely going to get an acceptance on that. Unfortunately, the execution of our wife has angered the Pope. He was in a position to grant us money, but not anymore. We do have some new knights who have arrived at the court, however, and we're going to try and get them hired. Here is a Orthodox, Yermoli, from all the ways out in Russia. We're going to recruit him. He's the second highest ranking knight that we have. Here is an insular Irish. Prowess isn't bad. On the one hand, I might hold off on hiring him. On the other hand, we really have, oh my god, we have some really bad numbers that we need to kick out. What's he asking for? 50? Go on. I can't remember how Serla came to our court. I think I hired her for her high learning, so we recruited her. She was married for a period of time to our great knight, Majmir, who unfortunately died from internal injuries in the last war that we were involved in. So we're going to marry her out to Flahertuck, a steward, actually, of Lorne's down in Desmond. Look at that for prowess, and it's a matrilineal marriage. Considering that she is leaning towards insularism, this is something I didn't want to do, but here is a courtier in England. We've just gotten 15 quid out of this courtier. We're going to blackmail Leofrin. They're a non-believer. So we're going to see if we can get as much money as we possibly can together. And she has accepted that hook, and reluctantly we will demand money. There's that alliance formed with the House of Oldenburg. He's not looking great. Boys, oh boys, he's not looking great. Oh, it's the old whips. I'm not too sure what's after happening. He's dropped another 1,000 troops. He's not involved in any wars. He has money coming out the wazoo, though. That's the only problem. The amount of mercenaries that he would be able to hire with that money. What we're going to do, we're going to observe affairs for a while. Sweden's got a chunk here for a while. I'm not too sure how that happened. Norway got in here. Poland is after wandering its way into Scotland. So there's a lot of anarchy. I know there's actually an alliance, isn't there, between Poland and Scotland. That vassalization has been accepted. We're making a good chunk of money per month. And on the one hand, I want to get more money so that we too can get mercenaries, but I also want to try and hit England while it has no alliances and while it's some way weak. Here is Princess Arenrod in de Hybert. This is hardly the same Arenrod that appeared many, many episodes ago that we bribed for money, I think. She had a number of lovers, and we recruited them to serve as our knights. Who knows? So we could grow close to forming a friendship with her, or we could laugh at her vain attempt at gaining glory. She'd become our rival, and we would gain some prestige, enough to cover the cost of the knights that we just hired. And I'm not going to lie, I forgot that this was even a thing. Bevan, who could be a rather problematic character, considering that her husband Congus is the Duke of Dol-Clua, and that their son will one day inherit the Earldom of Dalgosh and the petty kingdom of Ballclua, but she has arrived at our court. We will have her shown in at once. I wait patiently on my throne for the arrival of Countess Bevan, who is soon announced and ushered before me. She kneels in deference. We will say, serve us well. So she gains some prestige, we gain some court grandeur, and prestige, and family renown. We had a pop-up there a couple of seconds ago. That's Scotland. Its court has converted to Toirdelbach. And here is our wife Murchad. Everyone appreciates a gift, but perhaps I could come up with something truly unique that will make a real impression on Murchad. So, an embroidery featuring her house crest. That's not going to be tough. Commissioned poetry on the joys of life dedicated to her. A wood carving of a castle. Physical pleasure. Wood carving of a castle. I don't think she appreciates anything. She's lazy. She's drunk. Get her a wine glass or a big old mug. Or just a bag of cans. Why isn't bag of cans an option? Yeah, we'll commission old poetry. And you know what? In all fairness to her, it wasn't a bag of cans, but maybe it was an ode to a bag of cans. Maybe it was Flann O'Brien's famous poem, A Pint of Plain. But you know what? She's happy out. And we get some budding interest in our seduction scheme. Another knight has appeared in our court. Lubomir Wislawid. What a name, what a name. And look at this, we share a common interest. He too is a torturer, he's a holy warrior. He's a drunkard, he would have gotten on well with our ex-wife. His prowess is only a 10. However, it would save poor Magnus from taking part in this war. Let's hire him. Let's not. So, of course, Lubomir is a guest. He's not actually one of the knights. I don't think we got 3 knights. I think we only got 2. And he's arrived at our court because he has claims on a number of interesting places. But we won't be enforcing them for him. I don't think we've any options. I think our knights pretty much look as they do at the moment. Thorfinn. We married... That's actually Magnus's daughter to Thorfinn. He has the Herculean trait. It was a matrilineal marriage, so he has gone in as our primary knight. There's Flahertuck and Yermole. Thuhel, Mordo's son-in-law. Oh, Moroin, he's not in great shape at the moment. There's Ultar, another knight that we hired. And Irgolok, our chancellor. And there is Magnus. So it looks like those are the knights of the kingdom at the moment. It is the 3rd of February, 1141. And you know what? If we kept waiting, I'd say he'd keep losing troops. He has 1,600 Huscarls, however. That is a bit problematic. We're not going to arrange a marriage. We are going to declare war to... We'll go for the Duchy of Ulster. Let's try and put the past behind us. Éireann de jure war. So again, Éireann just means Ireland, as opposed to Éireannach, which would be Irish, but that's a modern phrase. I don't know. Anyway, let's try and put the past behind us. And ask King Congus to join us. We will invite him as a house member. His army isn't doing great. They've had some trouble in the region of recent, but you know what? He's close. Now, rather worryingly, they haven't had any children as yet. Here is our daughter, Cernach. And our son-in-law, the King of France. If we try and invite him to the war, it's going to be 350 prestige to bring in his 4,000 troops. We don't need a huge number over what we have at the moment. We, of course, can't call our wife in. She might be entering this war anywhere. Considering that they are the family of the future King of Ireland, and they have 16 troops. It is an omen, and it's also 75 prestige. Bol Clua joins the war as our main army, commanded by the High King himself, heads up along the coast. And here comes that final night, a bit too late. So Bol Clua's forces will join there. Oldenburg has joined as well. We'll see where the English actually appear from. We have only a slight advantage over the English, so Orvieto has also been called in. The man himself has put on a hat. There is our daughter-in-law, our future daughter-in-law. We have left our spymaster in the court in England, learning various different things, both to see if we can get some money together, but also possibly to see if we might be in a position to force people to join the court. And there we're seeing a large English army heading north, heading for Bol Clua. And the Scottish forces. Here is our beloved wife, who we are trying to seduce in the midst of a war. I think we've succeeded. The servants have been sent away, and our bed has been decorated with roses. Moraid enters our chambers as she smiles unwarily and joins me without any hesitation in our chambers in the war camp. So as we are united in marriage, we are now united in heart. So she will become our lover, and it ends our scheme to seduce her. You say it's a curse undone, but this man has made a tremendous amount of money for the kingdom. Earl O'Moroin, we haven't always gotten on well with you or your family. He has died from his wounds. It's not telling me where exactly he's fighting. We haven't hit any armies. I know there's a lot of argy-bargy going on up in this region, but he has died from his wounds, unless... No, I thought he might have been a flagellant, but he's had it tough, and he has been wounded for a considerable period of time, and in poor health. Earl O'Moroin, we say not a day too soon, but we only lose 6 stress, because we actually really like to. Pope Benedictus has died. And we are seeing that it's looking like it could be a loss. And it looks like it is indeed. We held our grounds as the English forces came in against us. Not Orvieto, but Oldenburg pulled back to join us as we were sieging the area. But it does look as though the English are going to have a tremendous advantage over us. She joined our court at a good time. Countess Kennach, the Impaler of Ivali, is going to be appointed as our new... Gillo, come on. You can have the job. We're, our forces are falling back fairly heavily there, even though the English are down to 3,000. We did actually manage to win that siege. We will begin the process of swaying the Countess, and we'll get her on side before we give her such an important position. The defeat of Downpatrick. We don't seem to have suffered any major injuries to our knights, but of course the big issue is the amount of troops that they were actually able to bring in, or I should say the amount of knights that they were able to bring in against us. We have a couple of wounds, a couple of injuries. We're on Irish soil. That's the only good thing. They only suffered 463 losses to our 2,000. We might have to call in more allies. What a day it is for Augura Mac Éada. 22 years of age, has just been recruited and appointed as a knight, and he will also be made our court poet. War correspondent. Basically, war correspondent. Our forces are retreating way down towards Tuavuan. We actually have very few allies that we can call in at the moment due to the fact that France is at war. And now the lands of the Valnardi are under siege. Murchad, we're not in a position to gain any stress at the moment. We're going to have to leave him as temperate, which is actually a valuable trait that members of the family have picked up in the past. I'm unsure whether our wife's soldiers are taking part in this battle or not. We've learned a thing or two about Muirin, so we have a couple of secrets on her. She's a courtier in England who we can't really get any money out of, and we will share them with our wife. And you can see that more alliances are being formed through marrying out our children. The Battle of Carrickfergus has been lost, and this is what we wanted to avoid. This is something that we wanted to avoid. The numbers are not going great. We called in our allies. They came straight across. I thought they were going to come by sea. They have gone straight across, and they are going to get hammered by an English army. Again, however, the English are far from home, and they are losing their numbers. They are losing... suffering attrition, is what I'm trying to say. We're seeing our armies regrouping and coming across. We've lost a lot of war goal. The war goal has changed erratically there from minus 44 to minus 37, because we've now taken this region here, but I was a bit surprised at that. For the loss of Dalnaradi, how much land they have managed to take, or how much of the war goal they have managed to achieve. In some absolutely terrible timing, all of our Scottish allies are also at war. I think we have no other alternative, really, but to take our forces and march in against the English. Now, of course, what we could do is we could actually travel... We could drop straight in behind them and siege that region back down. Probably should have taken it the last time. We are going to go for War Profiteer. And that's hopefully going to keep those taxes up. It's taken us out of debt anyway. There's a good chance we might actually be able to siege down the lands behind the English faster than they can siege ahead of us. Are they going for Dalnaradi? If they are, I might just leave them there. And what little of a force as we can find is coming across from England. This is interesting. We have learned a secret about our own wife. While we are studying secrets in the English court, she plotted and schemed to murder her brother. It was her. You absolute divil, you. Well... You know what we do with murderous wives. We blackmail them. This marriage has broken down completely. We hate each other at this stage, predominantly because we're of a different religion. We've gained that blackmail hook, and there's a lot of things we could do. We could blackmail our wife. There's a lot of things we could divorce her. We're going to demand a payment. We're going to get 50 gold. We're seeing the shattered remnants. Dunanaul has been lost. The lands of the Dalnaradi are just about to be taken, so we're keeping this battle at 51%, and the English thankfully are losing some troops to attrition. The only problem is we don't want to fight them in Tir Connell. That is not a good place to fight. It has hills. I was pulling my forces back to try to basically regroup in this region. We're seeing allies coming in from Scotland, and unfortunately it was Dol-Clua's army has come across, and it's pretty much now being set upon by the English. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to move up. If they get hit, they haven't. Fantastic, fair play to them. They have not gotten hit. So we're going to park. We're going to swing ourselves around in a circle, and we're going to park here and wait to see who else we can bring in. So we're actually probably going to need to move fast, because if they take those regions, we could very well lose this war. We have some mercenaries who have come to join us. We're going to see if they're going to... They're not going to give up. They've lost, or they... I won't say they've lost, but they gave up that siege of Dalnaradi. fairly late. We've bought in massive numbers against them, but they're still doing huge damage. Huge damage. Here, Gaulach, I think, has been killed in the battle. It's going to be huge losses to our knights on our side. It's a good, solid victory. That's going to drive them back into England. It's going to give us time to siege back down these areas. Our massive problem at the moment, other than the fact that our great chancellor, Gaulach, has been killed, is that France is fighting a war. It's at 17%. It's not anywhere near being over and being in a position to come and help us. But we have at least routed the English forces, sent them back home, and we will begin taking back the regions that they have seized down. We must appoint a new chancellor to replace Gaulach, the man who was there to help us form the Kingdom of Ireland. We have few enough options. We will go with Lorne. It'll make her hate us a little bit less. Countess Cianach is getting there. We'll put her in as our spy master at some stage. There we go, our great victory over the English. 2,200 losses to their 1,600. And look at the numbers that their knights were able to put in. We captured one of their knights. He's dying in our prison. He got the perfect number of kills. I think this is the guy who murdered or who killed our chancellor. And Magnus, another kill for Magnus against one of their knights, and that is, we're now in an advantage with the knights, so that is a good thing. We've killed one, and one of them is on the verge of dying. And you know what? We might just help him on the way. We're not going to complicate matters. We'll give him a dose of the whip. We'll slow things down a bit and we'll see where these armies are heading to. I'd be hoping somebody will go for Tyrconnell. No. So there, out of the corner, we can see Poland is sieging down. Or it's lifting a siege in Carrick, I think. It looks like some of our allies are indeed going into Dalfiocruk, which is fantastic. We've sent one of our larger armies. We've combined our forces and our mercenaries. We've split them between Tyrone and Tyrconnell. But it's not going to be all that long until the English return. Masonic Dealings, a guild of stonemasons, has established itself in Line. Having dedicated craftsmen in my personal service could help the region to flourish. So we could strike a deal with them. Lots of chances to lose a lot of money. So our stewardship is not good, and we've basically a lot of chances to put ourselves into bankruptcy, unfortunately. And again, more opportunities to lose money. Our eldest son, Murchad, his guardian, wants to teach him Norse. And we don't have the money to spend on things like this. You didn't want a rabbit. You didn't want a ragdoll. Now you want to learn Norse. This is just another fad that you're going through. I was wondering why we weren't seeing England's armies returning. I saw them parked just on the border with Scotland. What could they possibly be doing there? I was waiting for this. I was expecting that this would happen at some stage. Rebellions have begun to break out in the Kingdom of England, and indeed half of England's army has left. He's been a bit of a divil. He's been a bit of a nuisance to us. But Duke Wystan is fighting to declare the north of England independent. That has wiped out half of England's army. And it has led the English forces to stop their march back into Ireland. We're not going to fabricate any schemes in England at the moment. That's a scheme enough. We're about to retake Dalfiocruk. And our wife, is this our primary wife now? I think this is our primary wife. I'm not actually too sure. We've moved them around so much. Lachlan, after Lachlan Burke. Why not? Now, I am slightly worried as to where our substantial allies are going. it looks like they're actually going to attack England itself. Fair play to them. They're desperate to seize things down. King Alpin has won a war against Man. And we have lifted the siege of Tyrconnell. So what's going to happen, this is what I was a bit worried about, is that England will lift its siege and it's going to go out to see what it can see. So we will join our two armies. And we will see what direction England is heading in. Do you remember that wife that I said the relationship had completely broken down? Well, she is pregnant again, just as her eldest son, Murchad, comes of age. We were training him. He was following in our footsteps. Actually, as an intricate web weaver, we have failed utterly to give him any good, solid traits. They grow up so fast. Oh, Lord. Well, Murchad, have fun in Cornwall at some stage. I was saying have fun in Cornwall because, of course, he's not going to inherit the title King of Ireland because that is... Oh. So the Kingdom of Ireland is indeed male preference, confederate partition. We're going to have to try and... How much is that going to cost? That's going to cost 1,500. Do we actually have that? We're at war and we're missing a ton. So there you go. We have to try and add Tanistry Elective to the High Kingship. This is interesting. This is interesting. We are without our allies, but they have a disembarkation penalty. I don't know, are we going to hit them in time? Fergus, our Earl, is arriving at our court. He's going to give us some money. He kneels in deference and the oaths are taken. We want to hit them before that penalty lifts. So if we're not able to hit them this time, we might have to back out, and it's entirely possible. We're locked in now one way or another. And there you go, we are in against the English king. They have vastly better trained forces. We do have an advantage over them. Your Moldy. I don't know, was he maimed or did he manage to maim somebody? Here is Bevan, our cousin in Dalgash. In our latest correspondence, she made mention in passing about the state of her troops, as if the subject would interest me. These letters are supposed to be strictly diplomatic in their nature, but of course, they sometimes dip into more personal topics. So she is our steward. She is a distant member of the family, and it will increase by our opinion by 10. We have managed to give the English another bit of a baton, and off they go. Our child, with our wife from Cornwall, was not meant to be. And our daughter Moraith, our disappointment of a daughter who married two of her uncles. She's been released from prison. If we take a look at that battle, Godwin of Essex, the champion on the English side as he seeks to defend what I can only presume is his father's throne. Their number of knights is heavily depleted. They're putting in great work though. Yermole, our knight, unfortunately has been wounded, as has Laura, one of our, what would you call them, mercenaries. You can see there in the background that we are making a big long march across into the north of England, but our allies thankfully are sieging down this area, and we could very well see this come to an end shortly. Bevan included a whole passage about warfare. So, what about swords, huh? And in my recent correspondence, my steward has shown a shameful lack of understanding of warfare. And if even I know that she is spouting nonsense, then it is bad. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. So if we see some sieges being conducted here, we're up to 58. The only thing is that that region is rebelling against them. Moraith has given us a son, Corul. And our acquaintance, Fergus. Former marshal, got some people killed. Fergus has died of old age. He was also a knight for a considerable period of time. So France hasn't had time to join our war, but is asking us into theirs. We will accept, we will accept. We're trying to hit this English army actually before it goes out to see what it can see. I don't think we will manage to do so. They're actually going to stop and give battle because they were wandering around in various different places. Morgan, I believe, has entered the war. We should actually bring this up and see what's going on. Somebody on Man has died. And there you go. We have managed to take the king's brother, Godwin. Their lead knight. We have managed to take him hostage after capturing him. At the Battle of Wigtown, one of our commanders was killed. And we have brought that war against England to an end. It has taken us 4 years. A lot longer than I expected. If we'd been able to bring France into that battle, it mightn't have taken as long. We will enforce our demands so that we can now gain control of a good chunk of Ulster. Mohun, we have gained a favour hook from him. I think we might actually use that immediately. We have just won a county for you. If we send this army out to sea, it's going to be 41 gold. The other option is to send it down by land. And do you know what? There's actually a couple of juicy looking places here. So we should get our money back. So our mercenaries will stay standing. Here is Marcarthuc. We see him and our vassal, Earl Owen in Ormond, around the castle, deep in conversation. So they can't be up to any good. Or we can do a diplomacy challenge. We'll try that. It looks like they've all gained good opinion with us. We're going to bring our armies out to sea and send them to siege down Morgan. To help in this war against, or this war on France's side, we will have Gilla Adamnoin end his scheme. And the reality that we have to face now is that the High King is quite old. He has gained the ill trait. He is dying. I was looking at retiring him to a monastery, and I don't think we're going to be able to get that tanistry option in place, so it's going to be going to Marcarthuc, who is nowhere near skilled enough to be considered for the High Kingship. We could tell Adamnoin. Do we know what's actually wrong with us? We're just ill. I don't think there's a need to do any more than... Well, we are dying. Too late for caution? I'm willing to try new things. Our forces march south to Morgan after our great victory, vanquishing the English from most of Ireland. We've driven them into Connacht, where they belong. Arthur now stands on the verge of death, and we're not in a position to actually stabilise the succession through tanistry. It's too late for caution. And you know what? It worked. Balanced humours. He gave me a peculiar potion. He's done mighty work. We saved him from an execution, and he's only too glad. He's only too glad. I said we were marching south. We're not. We're out to see what we can see. And let's land the forces there. We have arrived and placed the army under the command of Earl Finchnachtha Mac Feridach. Did we torture your mother? Or was it your stepmother? No, it was your stepmother. Here is Feridach of Meath, whose lands we conquered to create the High Kingship. And now his son has been put as the siege commander of this army. We're now in a position to ask the new Pope, Hygienius. For a hell of a lot of money. A lot more than I actually expected, so we're going to send out that request. We're told that Murchad can marry his wife, as you would expect. And I think what we're going to do is... let's see. So we lack servants. I think we'll risk it anyway. Let's spend the 93 gold. We know that there's some money coming in from the Pope to start a feast, or to start a hunt, I should say. To the abhorrent High King Arthur. Here's some money. Thanks. Just as my courtier Bertha and I crest a hill, we hear it. The snapping of twigs, the rustling of branches, a massive stag heading straight towards us. Its path ends here with me. 59% chance that we slay it. 27% chance that we're wounded, 13% chance that we die. Somebody's path is going to end here with me. Call an ambulance. But not for Arthur. The hunt is drawing to an end. We mount our horses to leave. I have held my share of hunts, and people around me have started to take notice. Word is spreading of my activity. I don't know. We've discovered a scheme at court. Somebody is plotting to kill our marshal. We must stop the villain behind this. We are told that we have an option to unlock a new dynasty legacy. And what legacy would we want to go into the future? Control growth per month, that could be handy, considering the amount of wars that we're fighting. Pursuit efficiency could be beneficial. Dread gain, natural dread. Title creation cost isn't much good. Control growth, however, is. And then we'd be going up to construction cost and stewardship lifestyle. Yara will go for noble veins. Fair Car has come of age. A cowardly villain. I'm not too sure what we're even educating him in. Insightful thinker, he didn't do great. Another war by France, we will accept. And look at this, we have managed to seize a spear by sieging down this region. We're going to continue. We're going to split the army in half. Both of the remaining territories are the same level of castle, so there's not much of a need to kind of optimize which commander goes in which direction. And we have lost our ill trait. We're back to feeling just like ourselves again. Things were looking dicey there for a while. His health is poor. So I think you know what direction we're going to go down. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference, but we are coming close to finishing a stewardship lifestyle focus. Peasant rabble are arising. Another war in France. What would it be without more wars in France? Our mercenaries are about to enlist in 5 months. If we could siege down these areas, I don't think we'd mind too much. This is an option that the king has had at least once before. We're going to make the same choice. We're going to take the gold. We're going to take the money and run. We've unlocked a new stewardship focus. We could get meritocracy, tax efficiency, fearful troops, men-at-arms maintenance per dread. That's one we should have gone for before, and we will now switch to the medicine focus. His learning is actually not too shabby. But I'm not too sure how well that's actually going to stand for us. Look at all those wars across the bottom. Well, France is nearly winning one of them. We're helping. The worst thing that could happen is that that war would come to an end before we finish sieging down places. So one war has ended. Thankfully, it's not the one that we're fighting in. Our culture has discovered royal prerogative. And we have sieged 2 areas. Of course, we're not contributing in any way, make, shape, or form. Because these regions are allies. But we got some money. As our forces head to the coast of Morgan, we're going to take a bit of a risk. I am going to host a feast. It's a cheery gathering. Welcome, my friends. Now, we're going to make a couple of risks, I suppose. The other is that we're going to bring our forces across into this region. Now, we can see France's army, about 2,500 strong. I was trying to figure out that France has about 7,000 troops. Where are the other 4,000? And then I realised I'm the other 4,000. I suppose what we'll do is we'll try and bring them for this region. Let's change out the commander. And bring them to there. Maybe not. Ladies, I have enough to be worrying about at the moment. Our wives have... Or 2 of my wives have started fighting over something. I've lost a bit of prestige. I'm trying to figure out why. It wasn't from calling this feast, was it? Or have we lost prestige as, yeah, we lose 150 if we take that bottom option. So it's going to be one of these 2. And I think it's going to be our wife with the alliances. She's the one that we're going to piss off. And she's going to give us 40 quid. The feast strikes. What a disaster. We will have to spend money. I was hoping that something would happen that would gain us some bit of prestige. It hasn't. Another French war. We will accept. Our wife is pregnant. It was some feast. And we gain a grand total of just 90 prestige. We have brought our armies into the north and we're parking them there. France's battered army is retreating northwards. Countess Kianuk has passed away, so we were trying to sway her and appoint her as our new spy master. That's not going to happen. And another wife is pregnant. The Christian play at Limnock. It has been brought to my attention that Winchenty, a renowned Christian playwright, intends to hold a performance of his work entitled 2,000 Ireland Nights. The price of admission is steep. He might be getting it from me. But this is likely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to witness a Winchenty play with my own eyes. I might gain learning lifestyle experience, or I will not make light of God's creation. Absolutely. Let's learn. We're sending our forces south, and I'm trying to understand or trying to figure out where we're going. 2,000 Ireland Nights. As I watch the play unfold before me, it quickly becomes clear why Winchenty is so well known as a literary genius. The prose, the performance, all of it makes me feel as though I am witnessing the events of the scriptures unfold in front of me, as if I were there to behold God's work myself. Once the play draws to a close, I find myself alone with Winchenty. So we could gain 50 learning lifestyle. Or I could write better. I might gain a lifestyle learning perk. Learning challenge against Winchenty. I could beat him in a learning. I could write better. 2,000 Ireland Nights. It has been quite some time since I originally vowed to outdo the inferior work of Winchenty, and as the ink of my scribes grows dry, I admire my own work. The Passion of the Lord is a work deserving to be called a masterpiece. Magnifique. Chef's kiss, as they say. By my own humble reckoning, the only question that remains is who should play the lead role? Myself in disguise, of course. So this would be a diplomatic skill. Here's not a man of great diplomacy. It is father's time to shine. Oh. Or, husband is a natural charmer. Yes. She's not my husband, but if it's a diplomacy challenge, she can take this job. She's lazy, and she's pregnant. I take my seat amongst the audience watching High Queen Murchad as she begins her performance in somewhere in the middle of France. I outdid myself and showed Vincenti how a real insularist writes a play. We get 75 prestige, and we could unlock a new learning lifestyle perk. Do we click this again? Something strange happened there. The same option came up twice. I'm not going to complain, however. Rapidly, we are going to do two things. Medicine focus, anatomical studies, we are going to unlock. And as much as it breaks my heart, because he is the greatest High King that we have ever known, I think something went wrong there. This fired twice. I won't complain. So I think the end part there fired twice. We are going to add a law, and as much as it breaks my heart, of course we're at war, and we're going to have to end these wars. I don't think it's going to be possible. I don't think that's going to be possible. If we can get out of these wars, we're going to implement dynasty. The correct and right and just way for Kingdom of Era to be ruled and governed. It's entirely possible that we won't get a chance or an opportunity to do that, however. Our army is literally just parked in the middle of France because it's impossible to try and figure out who we can and can't attack. Let's randomly just attack these guys. France actually had a good army there to the side. We might as well try and pull our way out. We have twins. Banmead. Not Gilla, come on. Philmead. The family that Arthur has created. If France move north, well, France can't really move in any direction. Bless them, they're trying to siege down an area, they're trying to do something at the very least. The amount of children that this man has. And we're being raided by Iceland, the absolute devils. We're seeing... Oh, France. We're not going to be able to get out of that, are we? No, we've been caught. And I think France's other army is actually about to get hit. Arenrod has died. And a secret has made its way to the light. Mahon in Ulster has had an extramarital affair with his lover Grania. We can imprison Grania, but not Mahon. When Martin comes of age, they grow up so fast, he is betrothed to one of the Orsini. We will allow that betrothal to go ahead. So there's one war lost. We're going to leave our forces parked here just for a minute or two. We do actually have the forces to win one of these wars, but France is kind of going all over the place. It's getting itself cut out. that was one which I think they were actually performing poorly on. If they were to march their forces in now, we could possibly start looking at bringing this to an end. We have skirted our forces too close to the enemy forces. I am hoping that this will encourage France to move in. The battle has begun. Our daughter-in-law, who is married to Murchad, who we're basically trying to disinherit. They want to name their child Arthur. We have a scheme at court. Somebody is plotting to kill one of my knights. France. Thanks, France. There's now nothing to stop them from marching on France. I think if France had actually... Because France was very close to moving in, and if they had done so, then we would have been able to bring that to a war, or to an end, in a coherent fashion. Unfortunately, we have failed in our bid to install dynasty. I was making a desperate push there in the end to try and bring in dynasty. The good thing, I suppose, is that Arthur will keep his position as the... No, he's not one of the most prestigeful. The prestige has actually been quite interesting. He died of old age, known for his twisted, conniving mind. He never revealed his true intentions to anybody, not even his closest friends. High King Murchad ascends to the throne. Content with his lot, Murchad's vassals may ridicule him for his passive nature. Is it appropriate for the High Kingship of Ireland to actually be under primogeniture instead of dynasty? I mean, eventually the Irish would have pushed in that direction anyway. And dynasty is pretty much just elective seniority. It generally passes to the eldest son. Except in cases where the son is very young, or, in Murchad's case, stone useless. Stone useless. I haven't been checking around to see who we would have actually appointed instead of Murchad. He is another conniving figure. Let's see what's happened with the titles. Constantine, our preferred successor, has become the Duke of Munster. Faircar has gained Leinster. And, well, Martin has gained Meath. And we have... What the hell do we have? Oh yeah, Meath. I forgot about that. So here's what we want. This is what we want to look at. Is the legacy. He's just managed to get illustrious. And that makes him the most prestigeful of all of the characters who ruled previous to him. He was dreaded throughout his entire life. He was the cultural head, reigned for 25 years, not too shabby. 18 wars. 18 wars, and it was probably all those wars that we got sucked into in France in the end that kind of messed it up, because we would have been able to implement dynasty. I'm still undecided. Would it make sense? Maybe it makes sense to have primogeniture as the title of a kind of a feudalized Ireland. Or not the title, but the actual way to go. What a life that we had with Arthur. The amount of torture that we conducted. I'm not going to lie, that was tremendous fun. Can we still see his stats? He's down to 15 now. But he had some stats as a torturer. Novice hunter, torturer, unyielding defender. He actually wasn't all that shabby of a military leader either. Wait, no, he was a useless military leader, but we got his prowess way up through torturing people, which was absolutely fantastic. Haven't played as a torturer in a while. And I'm not going to lie, it was great fun. With Arthur dead, having secured the great goal of his dynasty, securing the High Kingship, I think there is a good place to call this series to an end. I was hoping that we could institute dynasty, go to peace, institute dynasty, and have Arthur retire to a monastery. That would have been the perfect ending for him. And it doesn't seem like all that long ago that he actually came to power in the first place. But what fantastic achievements he's managed to secure in the last number of years. Seizing Meath, seizing Ulster, a hefty defeat to the English, admittedly inexpensive in terms of manpower to the Irish, but drove them out, formed the Kingdom of Ireland. Undoubtedly, Murchad would be in a position to vassalize Connacht and drive the English out of the last remaining area. I think we have destabilized England tremendously. Let's see how they're actually doing at the moment. They've gotten that region back, but their forces are still 1,900 less than what they had under Arthur. Their Huscarls are all but gone, and so they probably aren't as big a threat or a menace anymore, unlike Iceland, who is still hanging around and causing devilment and bedlam and anarchy. It's been tremendous to see the changes that were made, and some of these changes were made based on suggestions that I put forward in previous videos, stuff like the retiring to monasteries. So fair play to Mandate for A, listening to all of my ramblings, my incoherent ramblings, and actually putting them into a mod, because I come up with a lot of ideas that I think, do you know what, that would be great. But it's not until you actually see it in a game, until you actually get to play as it, you realise, actually, no, this isn't great. It's kind of unbalancing things, or it's making things better, it's making things worse. So it's been great to actually blind people and have people retire to monasteries. I think that added a lot to the game in terms of roleplay potential. Both how the resignations of neighbouring rulers impacted the story, and it was always there as an option. It was always there as an option for my characters to resign if I'd ever wanted them to. Maybe it's something that should only kick in once a player hits 50 years of age. I could see people abusing it and going through, you know, sending 7 or 8 people off to the monastery to get their preferred choice in place. But then again, if that's what some people want to do, then how bad? Let them do that. The blinding mechanic was really interesting, and we saw Browan blinded on one episode. It didn't depose him, but it pretty much deposed him in the next episode. He wasn't able to survive, he wasn't able to remain on the throne. Mandate has commented something about that it's not going to automatically depose them, but it's as good as deposing them. They're not going to be. It's very difficult for them to retain power from there on in. So that was a really fun mechanic, and I think in an 867 start, maybe somewhere where you can get the Kingdom of Ireland formed faster, where you have more rebellions. Of course, Arthur was so feared that nobody was rebelling against us, so we didn't get the opportunity to blind them. But I do like the idea that it's going to knock people out of succession, so that's a really fun mechanic to see in place as well. I like the changes to the culture, as in the addition of the Fianna and the Gallogloss. We'd need to play on a good bit longer to get the Gallogloss. But yeah, no, all in all, I think the changes that have been made have added a lot of really fun, interesting mechanics to the game. I'm still up in the air about Insular and Catholicism, and I think actually getting to play through a game with both Insular and Catholicism there, with the Pope patched in as the head of Insular Christianity, other than the fact that we can't go on crusades, I think the way it's represented here in this mod is pretty solid, is pretty good. I can't complain too much about it. If we just take a quick look at the religion, yeah. I think with the way the game is structured, with what Paradox itself wants, with these various different sects and things like this, I think this is pretty much as good as it gets. I think the best form of Insular Christianity is right here now in the Tip Volume 2 mod. I think the way that it is presented, especially the fact that we don't have a tenet to have the Pope. The Pope is the head of insular Christianity. It's not that the crazy, silly Irish think he's the Pope, but he wants nothing to do with us. He is actually the Pope. He is actually the head of insular Christianity. And it is basically just Catholicism under a different name, with some of the really interesting aspects of Brehon law that make Ireland unique and make Ireland something other than just a carbon copy of England, which is what it would be otherwise, and which is what it kind of was in CK2 for a while. And the most fun change, we saw Toirdelbach in as the head of Munster from the very start of the game. Do you know what? It brought a really interesting family into the game. Because if you were playing as Murchad, who was not the historical ruler, basically straight away after him is his son Brian. But here, and especially with Tanistry in place, we actually got to replicate the historically accurate timeline. Toirdelbach dies, Murchad succeeds him, and then Diarmid succeeds him. And we actually got to play as the three of them, and it was a kind of a much more interesting family. That mightn't mean all that much to people who aren't doing kind of a role play form of a game, somebody who just wants the most efficient playthrough and who just wants to kind of form the Kingdom of Ireland as quickly as possible and seize as much land. Stuff like this doesn't make an ounce of a difference. But from the point of view of this role play or this playthrough, I think this small little change added tremendous value, and it was great fun getting to play as Toirdelbach. Not for very long, 8 years, but getting them to play as his historically accurate successors and to think about their rules and to compare what was happening in the game with the actual point in time when they were playing. That was great fun as well. So if you haven't done so already, do go and check out the link to the Tip Volume 2 mod in the description. I've had tremendous fun with it. It's great to see this historically accurate events and abilities added to the game. Historical accuracy is important to me, but gameplay is the most important thing. If these historically accurate requests, if they don't add anything to the game, if historical accuracy doesn't actually make the game any more interesting, then, do you know, what's the point? And I think the historically accurate changes that have been made, the introduction of Brehon law, the ability to blind characters, the ability to retire to a monastery, divorce at will. I think these changes have added tremendous enjoyment. I've had great fun with them, so do go and check them out, and check out the link to the mod in the description. I've had good fun with this playthrough. I hope you have had too. I hope it'll inspire you to give the Tip Volume 2 mod a play. And now that we are at the end of our journey, I suppose there is nothing left but for me to retire to a monastery and live out my days, and hopefully you will come and visit me there one day.